I still remember the day Nandi left our village. The sun hung low, casting a golden hue over the thatched roofs, and the air buzzed with excitement and whispers. Nandi, the brightest girl in our village, was finally going to the city for her education. She was different from the rest of us. While most girls her age were learning to fetch water, pound millet, or prepare for marriage, Nandi buried her head in books. The elders spoke highly of her, saying she was the hope of the village. When news spread that she had earned a scholarship to study in the city, her parents, though hesitant, finally agreed to let her go. Before she left, her mother, Mama Binta, gathered the women of the village and performed a small ceremony. She anointed Nandi's forehead with shea butter and whispered blessings into her ears. "Never forget where you come from," she said. "The city is big, but the heart must always remain humble." Nandi promised to write, but letters came less frequently as months passed. When they did, they spoke of tall buildings, endless roads, and strange food. She talked about how people in the city moved fast and never stopped to greet each other. We could hear the excitement in her words, but something in them felt distant. Then, one year, the letters stopped altogether. Rumors began to spread that she had taken up work at a nightclub. Some said she had been seen wearing clothes too short for a village girl, others whispered that she had been seen in the company of a rich man. Mama Binta dismissed the rumors, clinging to the belief that her daughter was still the same bright-eyed girl who had left home. But when Nandi returned after 3 years, even I barely recognized her. She stepped off the dusty bus in high-heeled shoes that sank into the village soil. Her skin was lighter, her nails painted red, and her once neatly plaited hair had been straightened. Mama Binta ran to embrace her, but Nandi stood stiffly. Her father, Baba Kofi, looked at her, his eyes heavy with unspoken words. "You have been gone too long, my daughter. We feared we lost you." Nandi smiled, but it was not the warm smile I remembered. "I'm here now," she said. For days, the village watched her with curiosity. She barely spoke to anyone, spending most of her time locked inside the house. When she did come out, the younger girls looked at her in admiration, while the older women shook their heads. One evening, I saw her sitting alone by the baobab tree, the same tree where we used to play as children. She looked different now, tired, as if carrying a burden too heavy for one person. I sat beside her. "Nandi, what happened?" I asked. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a sadness I couldn't understand. "The city is not what we think it is," she said. "It takes more than it gives." She told me stories that made my stomach turn. How she had struggled to find food some days. How she had been laughed at for her village accent. How people had promised to help her but had only taken advantage of her innocence. "I had no choice," she whispered. "I did what I had to do to survive." For the first time, I saw the truth behind the rumors. The nightclub, the rich man, the silence. It was not a choice, but a consequence of a world that had swallowed her whole. When word spread that Nandi was back, the elders called for a meeting. They wanted to know if she would stay or return to the city. Baba Kofi, with a heavy heart, spoke first. "If you stay, you will be our daughter again. If you go back, we will not stop you. But know this, home will always be here." That night, Nandi wept in her mother's arms. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to be a child again. A week later, she chose to stay. She began to teach the village girls how to read and write, using the knowledge she had gained. Over time, the whispers died down, replaced by admiration. The city had changed her, but it had not broken her. And as she stood beneath the baobab tree, surrounded by young girls eager to learn, I knew that, despite everything, Nandi had found her way back home.